Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Talking Football podcast. I'm delighted to say we're joined this week by former St Johnstone, Dundee United, Northern Ireland favourite amongst others, Danny Griffin. Danny, how you doing?
I'm not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad for a Tuesday evening, Danny. So, it's good to always talk football. Your career, Danny, fantastic career in the game. Growing up in Belfast, as you did, were you always kicking the ball around?
Oh, if my mum sent me to the shop, I was away with the football. I was coming back with the bags of shopping with the football at my feet. Yeah, it was constant with football. That's the only thing I wanted to do when I was younger.
Yeah. Did you have any role models? Did you have any sort of idols you wanted to be like?
I'm a big Liverpool fan. Have been since I was a kid. You look back at that team that they had, Jan Molby in the middle of the park, Alan Hansen at the back, and then the John Barnes and that coming in. So it's that era was a big Liverpool. Like as a Liverpool fan, was great. Knowing the football that they played was terrific to watch, and they're still doing it now to this day.
Absolutely. Did you get over to Anfield at any point as a youngster?
I was. They had the opportunity to sign me, but I decided to go with Saints.
Wow. We'll touch on that. We'll touch on that now. Actually, you went over to St Johnstone quite young, weren't you? Were you 15 or something like that?
Yeah, I left school 6 months early. The situation with Belfast wasn't the best. Sorry, I know the camera's moving about here because I'm just trying to take my trainer's nut off. That left school 6 months early to come across to St Johnstone with no qualifications, knowing that Belfast at the time was in a bad place.
Yeah.
The Troubles was still at the height of it, knowing that they were just back and forward with each other, both religions, if you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came here at 15 with a view of maybe going to school here to finish off school, but I never got that opportunity because I was straight into training every day, working hard to live out my dream, which thankfully it paid off, and I did.
Yeah. Was that difficult growing up in Belfast at that point, Daniel? Like you say, was it? I guess it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy, but as I said, football was just an out for me.
Yeah.
Started off with a local boys club called Wolf Hill, and I played for them for about 3 years. And out of the blue, one of the boys was mucking about, and the coach at the time, that's it. Team's finished.
Oh.
And at that time, I was training with the Man United School of Excellence, and one of the guys I got really friendly with, he was playing for a team on the Shankill Road called St Andrews.
Yeah.
And my dad got friendly with his dad, and my dad had just mentioned that I was needing a football team. And a couple of days later, I received a phone call saying, right, St Andrews would like you to come and train. And I was like, right, where's training? They went, oh, it's on the Shankill Road. And I was like, oh, okay. Knowing I'm a Catholic, and the Shankill Road doesn't really go. But then I decided to go, and I never battered an eyelid after that. Everybody was great. And the team I played for went on to be the Northern Ireland champions, 4 years in the bounds. St Andrews have got a reputation within Northern Ireland and Belfast of producing players, i.e. Keith Gillespie, Paul McKnight that played for St Mirren many years ago.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few. Steve Davis actually was one of the ones as well. He's still playing at Rangers, playing at a really high level, all-time record cap holder. So yeah, they had a reputation of bringing through players.
What was the Man United experience like?
It was all right. It was going on a Wednesday night. It was like boys' club type stuff that you would maybe see about the place, that you would go and it would be elite players that they would just be training for, say, 2 hours. You were never playing games, but then within that training of doing it, the guy that was taking it all the time, there was a guy just above him that would sit and watch it, and then they would handpick who would have that opportunity to go to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't bad, but it gives you that insight of, yeah, I want to grab this with two hands. I want to be one of them kids that goes to Old Trafford to show Alex Ferguson, the manager of Man United at the time, I can be a good player.
Yeah. So
it was good.
Yeah, you said you went to Saints early, and Liverpool were in for you as well. How did that decision making process happen, Danny?
I looked at it as where I was going to get an opportunity.
Yeah.
And play most. You think about kids going to the big bright lights of football clubs, i.e. Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal. Unless they are something special, that they mightn't get a chance. And I looked at it upon that if I went to someone like St Johnstone, if I was good enough and big enough and get that opportunity, I could still grab that opportunity in a couple of years' time, knowing that if I was playing for St Johnstone and playing my trade, that people would come and sniff around. So yeah, I made that decision to come to St Johnstone, which it worked for me.
Yeah. And see, leaving school early as well, what was it? Were your parents in agreement with that? Were they happy for you following your dream sort of thing?
Excuse me. They were, because at the age of 11, I was always away. I was always away visiting different clubs for like a week at a time or 10 days at a time.
Wow.
So yeah, it was the education board used to send the person round knowing that you were missing school quite a bit to ask if there was always the issue of why he wasn't at school. But my mum would always open the front door and come in and show her the trophy cabinet and stuff and go, he's away playing football again. And so yeah, it's for me, leaving school, yeah, it was great knowing that I wasn't really interested in school. As I say, I had a dream to become a footballer, and that's what I wanted to do. But looking back now, and I telling my own kids now that if anything like that was to ever happen to them, they're staying at school.
Yeah. It's a natural move to knock back like your boyhood heroes to go somewhere where you know you're going to get more of a chance. What was it like when you went over? Because you're still a kid, basically. Were you staying in digs and that over there?
Yeah, they put you in digs. It was the same as when I was at St Johnstone as soon as I moved in.
Yeah.
It's when you're going away for a week at the time, they put you in a house that the people look after you, they feed you 24/7.
Yeah.
You're staying close to the training ground, knowing that it's within walking distance. You aren't jumping in taxis here, there and everywhere. At night time, they would maybe come and pick you up on a minibus and you'd go for either the cinema or a couple of games of pool or snooker, knowing that you aren't bored just staying in every night. So yeah, things like that it was always that every club you were at, they were always the same. They always tried to treat you differently, knowing that someone else was sniffing around.
Yeah. And I mean, your time at St Johnstone, Paul Sturrock was the manager there. What was he like, Danny, to work with as a manager?
He was great. Knowing it just wasn't Paul Sturrock, it was his backroom staff as well. He had an assistant manager called John Blackley. The two of them bounced off each other. The way they did training, they had it organised where Paul Sturrock taking the attacking minded midfielders and strikers and John Blackley taking the defensive midfielders and the defenders. And we worked on the area of the game that we were going to be playing. And then at the end of training, you would come in and play 5-a-side. So it was drilled into you quite early that this is the way training was going to be. And it got you in a frame of mind that, yeah, my job was to defend. I'm trying to keep the ball out of the back of the net with the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So we did things like that. And then when it came to games, it was always right, this is what we want you to do. This is how we want you to do it. So yeah, it hasn't really, football's changed, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Because at that time when Paul Sturrock was in, he had Jim McLean as a manager when he played. I just watched the news the other day with Jim McLean and the statue getting revealed at Tannadice, which I think is a great honour for him. That old school. But Jim McLean got the best out of his players, and as it did Paul Sturrock, but it was also down to his backroom staff of working hard.
Yeah. Can you remember your debut?
I made my debut against, I'm thinking it was Airdrie.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was a 1-1 game. And then the following game, Stuart McCluskey made his debut the week before me, who was my centre-half partner in the youth team. And I made mine the following week. The week after that, the two of us played together. And then we never kicked a ball after that. And we thought it was a wee bit strange.
Yeah.
I went away with the under-17 international side to Gerent, Sweden, to play the European Championships. And when I was away, when I was coming back, it was going to be the summer holidays. I think there was only one game left to play.
Yeah.
And I'd received the fax to the hotel saying, we need Danny Griffin back. Can you report? Because I was going to go back to Belfast because it was the holidays.
Yeah.
And I ended up reporting back and playing the last game of the season. And then when I come back after the summer holidays, I was straight into the first team training after pre-season. I played all the games, played all the pre-season games. And as soon as the season kicked off, I was in the starting 11.
Yeah.
So it was great that a manager has great trust in his young players.
Yeah, absolutely. Did see that more experienced boys, guys like Jim Weir and all that? Did they help?
Yes, They did. It was always all the experienced players tried to help the young ones. Yeah, when you were announced that you were making your debut, they were all trying, oh, he's nervous, he's going to need in the toilet, he's going to be doing this. No one. But when you were on that pitch, it was, you were one, that was your team. That was your teammates. If anybody kicked you, they were kicking you back and knowing that you've got to stick up for yourself. So yeah, it was great knowing that you had the likes of Jim, you had Roddy Grant, Alan Preston, Gary Bowen, and then he brought in Alan Kernigan from Man City on loan, and then they signed him permanently. So Luggy had built a really good side with experience, like Paul Kane, Nick Dazovic as well in the middle of the park. So yeah, it was great knowing that you were a young boy growing up in that, and they were there to help you.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about Nick Dazovic. We had him on a wee while ago. We always had Attila Sekelioglu on as well. Was it quite a character? What were these guys like at St Johnstone, Danny?
Attila was great knowing when he came in. Big silky midfielder, loved to tackle. Attila thought he was one of the fastest in the team, but he was probably about the second slowest, to tell you the truth. Nick Dazovic was underrated. Nick Dazovic was a very, very good footballer in the middle of the park. You could give him the ball, he could take it, pass it, move it, always give you an angle. A very, very silky midfielder, but could also do the dirty work.
Yeah.
So yeah, playing in a team with players like that made my job a little bit easier because it made you feel at ease.
Yeah, but I mean, you done really well when you come into the side, Danny. And I was reading that back in the day, Derby came in for you. Was that something? What was your thinking towards it? Did that get to you having being back? And was it similar to Liverpool, where you think I'm not going to get a game down there?
No, I weighed up all the options. I weighed up the pluses and minuses. Yeah. They were making the bid on their chief scout watching me on one occasion. It wasn't even their manager. The manager was taking their word on their chief scout, which, don't get me wrong, it's great that they've got belief in you. Yeah. But when I weighed up the pluses and the minuses was out doing the pluses. And I thought, with me still learning the game and trying to understand that I had the two best coaches at St Johnstone with Paul Sturrock as a manager and John Blackley for to help me develop to become a better player. Yeah. And I just decided the time wasn't right.
Yeah. And of course, you mentioned there playing for your country at 17. You make your debut for the senior side. Was it 18, 19 you made your debut for them?
18, just before my 18th birthday, I think we played Germany. Germany had 96. Germany had just won the European Championships.
What was that? That's a baptism of fire, that, is it not?
It was great knowing that Bram Hamilton was the manager of the international side at the time. And I'd been involved in some of the squads. He had drafted me in, but never played me, if you know what I mean. I was an unused sub. Uh-huh. And then all of a sudden, I received the notification through the club that I was involved in the squad straight after the season finished. It was the game against Germany, knowing that they'd just won European Championships. They'd beaten England. Stefan Kuntz had scored a golden goal. We knew what players they had: the Muller, the Klinsmann, Bierhoff, Hassler, Kahn and goal. So they were coming. And it was a chance for them to parade the trophy as well. But as Northern Ireland have always done, they've always been the underdogs. They'll always roll their sleeves up. They will give 100%. And we went out that day and just did that. George O'Boyle scored the goal. We went 1-0 up. Yeah. They missed 2 penalties. And then they scored near the death, knowing that it was one each. So a great experience knowing that for to make my debut against the European champions at the time was great.
Yeah, we'll touch on your international career a wee bit later on, but you mentioned George O'Boyle there. Spoke to some players that played with him at Dunfermline, and he says he was different class. How
scary.
Good?
George was scary. His touch, his movement, his ability to score, hold the ball up. The only possible thing that you would say about George that he never had pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, George as a striker, like if I would say, for example, I was playing in the middle of the park and you were able to hit George's feet and run off him and move, it was great. Always looked after your fellow international player, knowing I was travelling a lot with him when we were in the teams together. So yeah, it was always nice to have him in the team and knowing that he was always going to score you goals.
Yeah. I mean, St Johnstone, a great spell that you promoted in, was it 96, 97, then finished 5th at the following season in the top flight. Was that an enjoyable couple of years for you, Danny? Playing in the team?
Derek, it was great. When things are going for you, it's always great.
Yeah.
When things are going against you, it's the world's worst. You're in a deep hole. You're wondering how you're going to get out.
Yeah.
But when the team's playing well and you're winning games, you're right on the crest of the wave, knowing that, yeah, we can do anything we can. And it was always one of the things that Paul Sturrock said when he first came as manager. It was if you give him 5 years, he would have us fighting for trophies and being high up the league.
Yeah.
The year he actually left to go to Dundee United and Sandy Clark came in, we'd already reached the League Cup final, who we could beat by Rangers 2-1.
Yeah.
We reached the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup. That year, we reached third spot in the league. And that's when the European games came along against Monaco and Vasa and stuff. So, yeah, if Paul Sturrock had that plan for 5 years and he was in his 5th year just as it was happening, it shows you what type of person he was, knowing in what way he was building a team of possibly experienced plus young ones coming through for to gain the experience to prove themselves at a team like St Johnstone.
Yeah. See when you left, Danny, were you disappointed to see him go, Paul, at the time?
It was, because it came out of the blue. We always knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think it was part of the deal that they got him from Dundee United because he was like the reserve team manager at United.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So we always knew it was going to come, but we didn't expect it to come so quick. Knowing that he was always an Arab. Even when we played the youth team at Dundee United, he was always going to see the Dundee United youth team before he would come in and see our youth team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a shock, and then it came about where I had the opportunity to go and join him at Dundee United, which I did, knowing that they bought me for 600 grand, but it didn't help when he resigned 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Yeah. See when you mentioned the League Cup final, you weren't part of this. Were you injured for that game against Rangers?
No, I wasn't selected. I was sitting in the stand. Sandy Clark left me out.
Wow. Dear me,
so he left out a few. It was a hard one to take.
Yeah.
Knowing how well you've played, but then that's the thing of a new manager. A new manager comes in and has his ideas and see what players he wants to use. And I was the unfortunate one that I was sitting up in the big stand at Parkhead watching him.
Yeah, it must be disappointing as a player just not being on the park for a big occasion like that. But you mentioned that you played in Europe the following season. Everyone remembers that the Monaco game, Danny, of course, especially the game at McDermott Park was something else, a 3-3 draw.
Yeah.
You came up against some cracking players that night, didn't you?
Derek, it was ridiculous. The game over there was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Great knowing the story, knowing that before the draw actually happens, we know the draw's happening, and we're all sitting in the players' lounge watching the TV, and they're telling us that it's either going to be West Ham or Monaco, and everybody's like, "Well, we want Monaco. We don't really want West Ham, even though it's a Premier League team." And luckily enough, it was Monaco. So then we get to fly across and we land in Nice, and this is like the funny story of George and I being the Irish players that the bomb squad's called when all the luggage is coming round. And they're all looking at George and I, and it's nothing to do with us. There was just a suspect package that was going round the carousel that was nobody's. But yeah, great knowing you go and you play in their stadium. That Simeone up front with Trezeguet, who just won the World Cup in that and stuff as well. Wee boy Ludovic Giuli that went to Barcelona.
Last year.
Marquez, who was at Barcelona as well. So the Mexican boy that's the most capped for them. John Anarisa was at Monaco. Perzo was at Monaco.
Yeah.
Barthez was in goal.
Yeah.
So it was a great game for us. The wee boy up front for us, Miguel Samal, had 3 one-on-ones with Barthez and missed every one of them.
Yeah.
And then in the 70th minute, we just died a death and they scored 3 goals. But for to get them back at McDermott Park and to draw 3 each was a great achievement for us, because, as I say, it shows you Luggy had built a team that with a bit of experience and youth, we could go, and we always wanted to test ourselves against the best, and they were one of the best at the time. And for to get a 3-3 draw, don't get me wrong, they'd changed their team. They'd made a few changes. But for to get a 3-3 result against them at home was absolutely terrific. Up until about 5 years ago, we were the only team that they conceded 3 goals against in Europe.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it goes to show you the achievement that we had. But yeah, it was a great experience knowing playing against a World Cup winner.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Then, see when you came up as well, Danny, against the likes of the Old Firm and all that sort of stuff. Was there any player that usually gave you a hard afternoon?
Oh, Larson by far.
Yeah,
Larson was incredible. Playing at the back, knowing either he was playing with Sutton or Hartson. At times you think, right, I've got him, and you would blank, and he would be like the invisible man. He would be away.
Yeah.
His movement, for the size of him, his timing in the air was incredible. He's up there with one of the best. Knowing yet, I played against him in Scotland, and it's a couple of years ago we were in Dubai, and I had my family with me, and I seen Henrik Larsson standing at the bottom of the escalator, and I said to my wee man, "Come on, we'll go and get a picture." And he's like, "Nah, I'm not going over to get a picture." And I went, "Come on, it'll be the closest I've got to him in years." Knowing that you could not get near him, Derek, he was absolutely frightening, and then it shows you that he moves to Man United, he goes to Barcelona, and does exactly the exact same.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was incredible at the time.
Yeah.
And one of the players I played with at Dundee United, Charlie Miller, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. Ability the boy had was scary. Just had to give him a ball and he could take it anywhere.
Yeah.
He always got you out of a sticky situation.
Yeah. So you leave St Johnstone. You ready for the change, Danny? And with Paul Sturrock being at United, did you feel like the right time to move?
It was the right time because with Sandy Clark coming in, I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
There was more of the situation where I wasn't going to sit in the stands and just rot away. Paul Sturrock had phoned me and asked would I make the trip down the road, 20 minutes, knowing the situation. Yet coming from St Johnstone to Dundee United, it was one of your rivals at the time, and he just wanted to touch base with me to see if I really wanted to do it. But he knew the reasons why I was leaving. The St Johnstone fans knew the reason why I was leaving. I wasn't leaving on a sour note.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I was leaving on a positive note, knowing that I'd give my all for St Johnstone when I signed at 15. And yeah, I made the decision to move 20 minutes down the road to Dundee United. And as I said earlier, I went and got injured, and within the first 2 weeks, I think the second game of the season, they played Hibs at Easter Road, and Didi Agath banged in a hat trick, and straight after the game, Paul Sturrock resigned. And I thought, wow, thanks. So yeah, I had a great time at United, and it was just a shame that it never worked out as it should have. No, Luggy resigning. A couple of managers coming in, like Paul Haggerty came in as interim manager, who was absolutely terrific. A lot of time for Haggerty, a great guy, great coach. Alex Smith was appointed. A lot of time for Alex Smith. He was great. He understood everything, what every player was doing, how they were doing it. He was always asked how you were, if you were tired. Yep, right, we'll only do a little session today. And then when the club changed hands from Jim McLean to Eddie Thompson, that's when the club started to really change in my eyes. Yeah. Eddie Thompson coming in and splashing the cash, sacked Alex Smith, brought in Ian McCall. And it was a bit like the St Johnstone thing again. Ian McCall came in and didn't really see me as part of his team. Yeah. But yeah, I had a great time at Dundee United. Yeah, playing wise, fighting relegation. It was hard. As I said, you're in that at times you're working really hard every day to try to get something out at the weekend, and it doesn't happen. You're in that big hole. You're digging and digging and digging. No one trying to get out, but you can't. One of the years we were actually Aberdeen were playing St Mirren at Love Street, and we were playing St Johnstone at McDermott Park. And if we had been beaten and St Mirren had beaten Aberdeen, we were relegated. And at half time, St Mirren are winning 1-0 and we're 2-0 down. And Alex Smith went absolutely mental. Parl Hartley gets sent off just at the start of the second half. Derek Lilly banged in a hat trick. We win 3-2. And Aberdeen beat St Mirren in the last kick of the ball, 2-1. St Mirren get relegated that day. We secured Premiership safety, went in the last game of the season against Aberdeen and beaten them 5. And you're thinking that's what we worked for all year to try to get results for that. But then it happened knowing that the last game of the season when there was no pressure on.
Yeah.
So yeah, fighting relegation was a wee bit for 2 and a bit years was tough going. But it physically and mentally it makes you stronger.
I can imagine. See when you went and played your old club, Danny, what sort of reception did you get?
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad because, as I said, the fans understood why I'd left. If it hadn't been for Sandy Clark, I'd have probably finished my whole career at Saints, knowing that I probably wouldn't have moved.
Yeah.
But yet he just didn't see eye to eye with me, didn't see me as being part of his plans. One of the games that we actually went back to play them at McDermott Park, we beat them 1-0, and I scored the winner. It's one of these ones when you see the players come back to their old teams and like, do they score, do they celebrate?
Aye.
I celebrated it, knowing that I had to.
Yeah.
Because, as I say, he just didn't. I don't know if it wasn't that he didn't rate me as a player, or he just didn't see me part of his plans. But yeah, I celebrated it knowing that we win 1-0.
Yeah.
And then went and partied in the town centre afterwards.
Good on you. See, you mentioned Jim McLean earlier. Do you have any dealings with him when you're at United? And what sort of guy was he?
Jim McLean was a lovely guy. Like, you hear vicious rumours that he was a nasty guy in the way he treated people. And one of the stories, and I've kept this in my head. And as much as I said earlier, working with the Saints Community Trust, I tell this to all the kids, and I also help within the youth academy at St Johnstone. I remember one day being in the gym on the cross trainer, and he used to come in the gym on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I was on the cross trainer one day, and he asked me a question: what's the most important thing a footballer uses? And I felt embarrassed that I didn't know the answer, knowing that I played for a few years. And I hit him with everything. I hit him with my head, right foot, your left foot, courage, strong. And it's honestly, I was on the cross trainer for about an hour. And I went, you'll need to tell me, Chairman, you need to tell me. And he says, your ears. I said, because if I'm your coach and I'm telling you to do something and you listen to me and you go and do it, you'll become a far better player. And I tell that to every team that I'll coach. If I'm coaching kids, I'm saying, right, guys, I need you to listen, because if I get you to listen to me, you're going to be a far better player than you were before you started. So Jim McLean was a great guy. He had his heart in the right place for Dundee United, knowing like all the years he was involved with the club. Hence why he's got the statue just outside Tannadice, and that says quite rightly so, knowing that he was the guy that had it all for United against Barcelona and everything when they're going the European venture that they had.
He was certainly a one-off, that's for sure. The Dundee derby, Danny, what was that like?
Fiery.
Yeah.
Fiery. You always try to, the first person in your team, always the first 50-50 was always a big challenge. Sometimes playing went out the window. It was to see who was going to be the stronger ones in the tackle and making your mark on the game. Sometimes it went for you and sometimes it went against you. But great games to play in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you suffered a few. Was it Dundee United? You started suffering a few injuries. Is that right?
Aye, that's where it all started. I burst 2 discs in my back.
Yeah.
I was losing feeling down my left leg. I was out for about 2 weeks with it, and then all of a sudden come back training, and it just happened again, the exact same thing. And then I jumped on a plane to fly to London to play for my country against Spain, and they sent me back telling me I wasn't fit enough. And then I ended up having an operation, and I was out for 9 months.
Wow.
So it did start from there. Moved from Dundee United to Stockport, and within 6 months I snapped my Achilles at Stockport. So I've had my fair share of serious injuries.
Yeah.
Knowing that, as I said, mentally and physically you come back stronger. It was my wife one day said that came back to when I started my career, the Challenge Cup final. We could beat by Stranraer 1-0. I'm a 17-year-old boy and I scored the own goal, and we could beat 1-0 in the cup final. A lot of 17-year-olds could have buried their head in the sand, and that could have been their career finished. I come back from it. Serious injuries I come back from. Managers that don't like you as a player, you come back from, you show them, you prove them wrong. And it was my wife said it one day that you've actually worn the t-shirt, you've been there, done it and worn it.
Yeah.
So it's things like that I've always said to any kid that's in a youth academy at St Johnstone, if they ever want to have a chat or they're struggling, come and speak to me, because 9 times out of 10 I've been there. I've just finished a course last week doing mental health awareness of mental health in the game with ex-professionals and professionals at the minute is hard hitting. So yeah, knowing and understanding what people are going through, and if I can help in any way, I'm more than happy to sit and listen and give my views on what I went through as a kid.
Yeah, spot on. I was going to mention the Stockport move. You say there. I had Lee Mayer on a wee while ago. He didn't like it down there. But some of the players they had at that time when you were there, Danny, were incredible. Like Ashley Williams, Ricky Lambert.
Well, yeah, it was scary to think that Lee moved down. There was me and a boy, Mark Robertson, who came from Dundee when Dundee went into administration, Australian boy.
Yeah.
Lee did struggle to fit in a little bit. When he played, the fans were on his case. He made the odd mistake, and you know what fans are like. As soon as you make one mistake, that's it. That's you hounded. We had Ashley Williams, who came in, who I used to share a house with. When I snapped my Achilles at Stockport, he was one of the kids that came in really raw. Sammy Mack brought him in. Big, strong, quick. Run through a brick wall for you, but it was like every game before the games, he would come to me and say, right, can you watch the game, and then at half time tell me what I'm doing wrong, help me and try to explain things to me, which I did. It was always that advice. And then when he got that big move to Everton, I felt like phoning him and telling him that he due me 10% of the thing because it was me that helped him. With Ricky Lambert for an hour one. Sammy McElroy gets the sack and Chris Turner comes in, ex-Sheffield Wednesday manager, and doesn't like Ricky Lambert. And Ricky Lambert moves on to like Rochdale and whatever, and then all of a sudden he's at Southampton, and next thing you know he's at Liverpool, and you think, yeah, he deserves it because he's worked hard, he's a great player. Adam Lafondra as well, knew where the goal was, scored goals. Yeah, so there was the team at that time before Sammy Mack, it was Carlton Palmers. And Stockport were dishing out silly cash. Like Julian Lescott's older brother and that was there as well. No one playing in the middle of the park. And Sammy Mack had to try to ship some of them out because that's what the football club wanted. And that's when the troubles actually started for Stockport. Yeah,
certainly. And you come back up the road then, Danny, but was it Aberdeen? Was that the only club on the table?
There was a few. No, there was a few. But I think it was looking at it, knowing that you mentioned about injuries, everybody's head was like, is he going to be fit enough to play? Is he going to be able to do this? So they were always querying the injuries.
Yeah.
And I decided to take a 6-month contract at Aberdeen. And I thought, well, if I can go and prove to everybody at Aberdeen what a player I am, knowing that I'm not going to be injured, hopefully that'll open everybody's eyes. And when I went, after a couple of games, they were talking about a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 weeks after that, that was it. The contract was taken off the table, even though I played all the games. They qualified for Europe. And then I ended up, after that, I think it was, in the Dundee when Alec Ray went in. So, yeah, it was a wee bit strange with the Aberdeen situation, but I'll never change as a player. No matter where I was, I always give me all for the team I was playing for.
Yeah.
And I think it did that at Aberdeen, but just unfortunately, they decided to take the 2-year contract. I don't know if they were looking at it as a stopgap because they had a few injuries at the time, that knowing that the players were going to be back fit after the 6 months. But yeah, it's one of these things. That's football.
Yeah, Jimmy Calderwood, of course, was there. What was he like?
He was great when you're in the starting 11. If you weren't in a starting 11, it was you could be the invisible man. But then that was always the push that I think that he wanted, that you had to prove that you were ready to get in a starting 11.
Yeah.
And you had to work twice as hard to get in a starting 11. So when you're in a starting 11, it was great. Yeah. But the first game I had for Aberdeen was against Dundee United in the Scottish Cup at Tannadice. And I know he did the exact same thing at Dunfermline when he was a manager, where he just completely changed the formation to a 2-4-4.
Yeah. With
the 2 centre halves and the 4 midfielders and 4 strikers. We were 2-0 down at half time against United. And he came in, he went, you're off. Right, you 2 at the back, you 4 there, you 4. And I'm looking at myself going, where am I playing? Yeah, you're in the middle of the park. Your wee boy Fernandez, it was at Livingston. I want you to follow him, kick him, don't let him get the ball. And we went on to win 3-2 in my first game. And that was like my first experience of him going like, tactics, you're off, you're off, you're off. We're going a 2-4-4, and I'm like, what? But yeah, it was a great time at Aberdeen. Yeah, a lot of people up there that was looking after you and doing things the right way. The fans back you to help, knowing if you run through that brick wall for their club, they will support you every which way they can.
Yeah, that's a good
so
support.
Good times at Aberdeen.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so you moved to Dundee. Was there a bit of trepidation, and did you get any stick being a
Not really.
United player?
There was the odd one. Don't get me wrong. There was the odd one knowing that you had played St Johnstone, and then you were at United, and then you go to Dundee.
Yeah.
But as I say, they knew what type of player I was. Yeah, I was hard in the tackle. I put my head in where it hurts. I could also play. So they were looking at it, well, if we've got a player like that in the team, yeah, we are happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Then with injuries catching up, you spent a short time there, and then was it Ross County?
Yeah, I spent it was Alec Ray again, just didn't see eye to eye. He had different ideas to what playing wise that I had. I wasn't the only player that situation happened to. I think there was about 5 or 6 that seen the bigger picture of what he was trying wasn't in the way that the players were seeing it.
Yeah.
And after that, I went up to Ross County, as you said. And then within 20 minutes of signing for Ross County, I snapped my other Achilles. So yeah, they were great as a football club. They were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Knowing that situation, within 20 minutes, you're going to be out for 9 months. You just signed a 1-year contract. They looked after me. They put me in a hotel. They had me up every home game, had me in away games. They made me part of the team. And that's like the mental health side of things, knowing that serious injury. They really went all out, knowing to keep me involved. Knowing that I felt part of the club after the situation that just happened.
Yeah. See, mentally then, Danny, for being out for that length of time, is that difficult to deal with? I mean, physical, it's tough, but the mental side of not being involved in the training.
It is. But as I said the other day in the course, it's the team that you have at the football club behind you to help you. It's your family and friends. Yeah, you have your down, bad days, but it's your family coming in and like, come on, we're going to go out for the day. We're going to go out for a bit of lunch. You're at the football club, right? Keeping you engaged. Yeah. The managers used to come to me and go, right, I want you to keep an eye on this guy. I want to see how many crosses he's in. Take note of it. You're analysing the games for the manager. He's keeping you involved. He's asking you for a wee bit of feedback. Things like that keeps you knowing that you're itching to give back. It's like you're sitting in the stand, don't get me wrong, and you're kicking every ball.
Yeah.
But it just gives you that wee added incentive that I'm going to come back bigger and stronger, and I know what he's looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that way it was always my family, friends, and the football club with a serious injury happened, that they really supported you and gave you everything that you needed.
Yeah. From there, of course, you'd have a good couple of years. You went to Livingston and won the league, the 3rd division, and Arbroath won the 3rd division as well.
Yeah, I won it twice in the bounce.
Yeah. Wow.
It was great. Because Livingston was great knowing it was Paul Haggerty taking me to Livingston.
Yeah.
And I knew him as a coach, I knew him as a manager. He knew me as a player. He gave me the chance to get back in because Ross County was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And we went in, and then Haggy got the sack. We went into the administration when it was the Italian chairman.
Yeah.
That they were relegated to 3rd division. Gary Bowen came in because it was the big boy Welsh's father-in-law, ex-Cowdenbeath. His father-in-law came in and taken over the club, and they changed things. They were supporting, they were giving them a bit of cash to spend for to bring players. They were still full-time in the 3rd division. And we walked the league.
Yeah.
Knowing that we were full-time, he had quality players there. And then after it, he came to me and he says, unfortunately, no one moving up a league, knowing I was getting older, that there was going to be no other contracts. And then at the time, it was Paul Sheeran was the manager at Arbroath. And he phoned me out of the blue and says, would you mind playing part-time? I can give you this, I can do that for you. It's training at McDermott Park, which is 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can give it a go, knowing. And then when I made that decision to go part-time, it gave me an opportunity to go back to college.
Yeah.
To get qualifications to hopefully help me when I retired to get a job. So it fitted in great, knowing I was able to go to college. I was able to train nights a week, have the games at the weekend. I was able to spend time with my family, knowing that I hadn't done that for years, because professional football, it runs your life.
Yeah.
And for the go and win the first trophy in Arbroath's history, at the time of getting promoted, was absolutely fantastic. And then when I was leaving Arbroath, one of the directors was like, "What club are you going to next? Because we're putting money on you winning the third division." And I went, "I'm retiring." So I'd known with possibly a few months before Arbroath won the league that I was going to retire. My legs were giving up, my head wasn't, my heart wasn't, but I just knew with injuries that I had, and my body was starting to tell me that enough's enough.
Yeah.
And I made that big decision.
Yeah. Yeah, you just came to the realisation. Of course, at Arbroath, you had a couple of your old Saints buddies there. Was Mark McCulloch and Kieran McInnesby were there, weren't they?
Yeah. It was, knowing that Stuart Malcolm as well. So, and I think that's why the team played so well, knowing that we all had an understanding. We all knew each other.
Yeah. And
then with Paul Sheeran putting his own wee twist on things, it was great knowing that the team went and won that third division again, which was absolutely that was always a good way for me, knowing that I'd won it the year before with Livingston, and then the year I retired, I won it with Arbroath. So I went out on a high, winning the third division twice in the bounce.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, touching your international career, Danny, we mentioned, of course, your debut. That's a cracking shirt above you, the Italian one. That was. I was reading somewhere. Were you playing against Del Piero? No, is that Del Piero shirt you've got there?
It says.
Wow.
That says on the wall.
Wow.
It's Derek. It's crazy knowing that. Making my debut against Germany, I've got Stefan Kuntz's strip on my son's wall, which is through next door. It's when we go, we're playing Italy. Italy's a friendly match, and we're playing them in Sicily.
Yeah.
And it's growing up as a kid. The only thing we could watch on the telly was either Match of the Day or the Italian League on Channel 4.
Yeah.
And we'll walk out in this stadium in Sicily, and you've got 50,000 Italian fans booing you, and the big flares in that start, and you're going, "Wow, this is mental." And we're standing having a chat with all the players, and all of a sudden the Italians walk out, all my Armani suits, suited and booted, and the place erupts again, and you go, "Wish that was for us."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it goes quiet again, and then all of a sudden it just goes even twice as loud.
Yeah.
And it's Revanelli. Revanelli walks out himself, and this place goes absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
The biggest cheer I've ever heard. And even like when Celtic do the huddle, this was outdoing that big time. And we went on to play them. In the first half, it was Zola and Casaraghi up front, and then the second half, it was Del Piero and Revanelli. They beat us 2-0, and hence why Del Piero strips on the wall.
Yes, it's absolutely fantastic. And I've seen your goal as well, your goal for Northern Ireland against the Republic. What a beauty that was.
It's a fluke, Derek. I'm going in for the tackle. I'm expecting the 50-50 challenge. So yeah. And yet again, that's a funny story as well. I wasn't even in the squad to start with.
Wow.
Lloyd McMenamin was the manager in Northern Ireland, and I'd been in a few squads up to then. And I wasn't involved in this one, and I'd already arranged the holidays with the wife.
Yeah.
And 3 days before the game, I got a phone call to my mobile saying, "A couple of injuries. Do you mind coming across to Dublin?" And I says, "Yeah, it's my country. If my country needs me, I'm always willing."
Yeah.
So me and the wife were able to change the holiday, and I flew across to Dublin. I sat on the bench, and then it came to the stage. Neil Lennon was coming off, and the left back was coming off, Kevin Horlock.
Yeah.
And he called me and the boy Aaron Hughes that played Aston Villa, Fulham, Hearts. And he says, "Right, who wants to go at left back and who wants to go at centre mid?" And I went, "I'm going to be centre mid." So it left Aaron Hughes to go in at left back.
Yeah.
And the rest is just knowing. You've seen it. I've got to make the 50-50 challenge, slide in. Luckily enough, I catch it great, and it seals over Shea Given's head, and we beat them 1-0.
Yeah, it was something else. And see, you mentioned Neil Lennon there. We had Anton Rogan on a wee while ago, Danny, and he said he got a lot of stick when to play with Northern Ireland because he'd been a Catholic and playing for Celtic and that. Did you encounter any of that at all?
Not whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick a light on, Derek, if you give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries.
Knowing that moving about the house here.
There we go.
That's a bit better.
Quality.
Knowing that I never got it knowing. Like, I was at Rangers as a kid from the age of 12.
Yeah.
Alistair Stevenson was there as one of the head of youths. And it never, as I said, I played for a Protestant team in the Shankill Road, so it never bothered me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Some people knew I was a Catholic, some people thought I was a Protestant. People shouted at you when you were playing games, but it just went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
We've played a few pre-season games when I was at St Johnstone against Linfield over at Windsor Park. And playing with other players in the team that were Catholics. They get booed. Yeah. I didn't, because I was playing for Northern Ireland. They seen me as one of theirs. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Lenny got a bit of stick because it was Celtic, but should he have? Don't think so. He's one of our better players that we had for our country. He gave us all for the country. And it was a shame that I was there that night when they booed him. And it wasn't nice. It's hard to take, knowing that it's one of your teammates that's getting booed and he has to come off the pitch for it.
Yeah.
I remember having an argument with two guys sitting at a bar one night with it, and they were saying that he shouldn't be playing for Northern Ireland. I tried to put it in terms of what their job was.
Yeah.
And the two of them were builders, two brickies. And I says, well, like here, for example, you've got GS Brown at St Johnstone and you've got Stevens, another builder.
Yeah.
Two brickies working for either or, but one of them is getting offered more money to go to Stevens or one money to go to GS Brown. What would you do? Oh, I'd leave. I'd go more money. And I says, well, what's Neil Lennon doing? Yeah, he's moving to Celtic, but he's probably going for more money. He's looking after himself. He's maybe got a family to look after.
Yeah.
And when you actually put it in that terms, some people will understand it. Some people won't. But these two guys understood it and went, yeah, now that you've done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because all he's trying to do is make Northern Ireland a better team.
Yeah.
But if you've got some fans that don't see that because he's playing for Celtic,
yeah,
I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's a nonsense, really. See Northern Ireland just now, Danny. What do you make of them under Ian Barraclough?
To tell you the truth, I thought it was a strange appointment.
Yeah.
With Ian Barraclough coming in, like, I know that Ian Barraclough had a wee spell at Motherwell and it never worked. I honestly didn't know he was the under-21 manager when Michael O'Neill was the manager. I don't know if Michael O'Neill's brought him in and he's seen a different side of him working with like the younger ones.
Yeah.
But since he's went in, I think the team has been absolutely fantastic. They're starting to build again from a young age all the way through. I think I've seen the stats the other day. I think they're ranked at 47th in the world again. Yeah. They've probably dropped a little. But yeah, they're going in the right direction, which is absolutely terrific.
Yeah, and you touched on Stephen Davis just earlier on. I mean, he's a freak of nature, isn't he? How he's still going and still bossing games at that age.
What a player!
Yeah.
I was in the squad when he was first acknowledged in under Laurie Sanchez in Azerbaijan. Him and Chris Brunt, the two of them were brought in as two kids. And when you actually see him now, where he's been and what he's gone through to be the player he is, and still doing it at a high level, is absolutely terrific. He looks after himself really well. Rangers are probably getting the best out of him again, knowing that he had disappeared from Rangers to Southampton, playing in the Premiership down south. At a point, I think Man United were looking at him when he was a lot younger under Ferguson. So yeah, I think that the way Steve Davis is, there's a lot of youngsters who could look up to him and think, I want to be like him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And your old club, St Johnstone, as well. What a season that was last season, winning the 2 cups under your old teammate Callum Davidson. What have you made of them in the recent years?
Eric, it's sitting watching them, knowing within the pandemic last year, knowing we were all in lockdown, we were lucky enough that you can pay per view, you can still see the games, doing the odd commentary for the Saints TV for the overseas pundits. That it was a privilege to get that opportunity to go in and watch the live game and commentate on it. Sorry. For Callum to come in his first year, struggling last Christmas, second bottom of the league, fans shouting for his head because it wasn't working, Callum sticking by his game plan, the way he wanted to play, getting the team to play, and for the finish 5th in the league, win the League Cup, and then go and make history by winning the Scottish Cup and doing a cup double is absolutely phenomenal. A young team with a bit of experience through it, yet again, and that Callum has a good backroom staff with himself as well. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal season. The European games that we've just been through, watching Galatasaray and whatever at McDermott Park, 10,000 fans, home fans, mind you, no away fans, are filling McDermott Park. It was lovely to see again, knowing that the fans have come out and supported them. Their season ticket sales have been boosted, with people wanting to come back and watch them. And then they're winning their first game against Aberdeen on Saturday was absolutely terrific, knowing that it gets that wee bit of a monkey off your back because they were struggling. But yeah, it's what they achieved last year was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's still a club close to your heart, Danny. You're working with the Saints Community Trust, of course, as well. So what sort of what do you do with them?
It's everything, Derek. I had the opportunity when I retired that the job opportunity come up for the Glen with the Saints Community Trust. It's working with kids at all ages, playing football from 18 months up to walking footballers in the early 80s. School projects have gone into schools and teaching kids about racism and trying to change their mind of how, going back a few years, how people were brought up to see people and don't judge a book by its cover. But I think that the best project we run is an OAP group with dementia. It's called Football Memories. Before the pandemic, we used to invite them into the park, into the restaurant. We would have them down. It's a deck of cards of old Scottish international players that's probably ranging from late 60s to late 70s. And the pick a team, the team is always in the old style of like the 5 at the back, the 3 in the middle, and so on, the 2 strikers. That there's 5 players for every position. So we try to split them into 2 groups, and the team changes every single week. And on the cards, it's like, as I said earlier, Kenny Dalglish. You've got this picture of Kenny Dalglish in his heyday, maybe playing at Celtic. And you're showing them the picture, just trying to trigger that wee memory of who it is, but you're also giving them the clue of he's known as the king. He moved on to Liverpool, and you get this odd one that was Kenny Dalglish. And we always try to pick that team. So that's by far the best project we run as a community trust, knowing that how hard hitting it is. And the reason why I say that we were up for an award with this project with the NHS. And we always ask parents or their wives or carers to give us a bit of feedback. And we didn't know this, that one of the wives had actually handed or sent the feedback to the NHS. And when they were actually reading out the projects and the people that was running it, they actually says, and we would like to say this, that we've had this feedback regarding the Saints Community Trust from someone's wife, that she drops a stranger off, but she gets her husband back straight after it. And it could be that 2 minutes of having her husband, that's how hard hitting it is. So yeah, that's a great thing, knowing that that's what you're actually trying to help in people's lives.
You're certainly making a difference. It's great work you guys are doing. So wish you all the best going forward with it, Danny. That'll do us there. That's been absolutely great having you on. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Top man.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.